Hi everyone, this video gives you an introduction to English 2321, namely how to read for this course. I know all of you know how to read, but there are specific strategies that will help you to retain information. I'm also going to point you to some online resources and some tips for note taking. Close reading, what is it and how do I do it? Close reading is the method of reading that you should be using for this class and really for any of your college classes. When close reading, you carefully read the text to ensure that you fully comprehend it. So if you have the problem of reading something for class and then by the time you get to class, you don't remember what you read, this is something that can help you. It helps you to basically narrow in on those elements that are most important. Since we're going to be doing a vast amount of reading for this course, that's something that you want to be able to pick up on rather quickly. So looking at things like author's name, date the text was published, title. Titles are really important. We tend to overlook them. They help us to understand what the text is about and what's going on there. The way that the text is broken down, so do we have paragraphs, do we have stanzas, do we have sections, are they numbered, are there headings, etc. These are some of the strategies that you can use to help you. So if you tend to forget what you've read in a short period of time, you're probably not practicing these strategies, and you should. As far as online resources go, the Oxford English Dictionary, which is available to you through the MCC library, is a great resource. SparkNotes is a good resource as well, but let me give you a caution when it comes to SparkNotes and any other study materials. I'm seeing more and more students wanting to use these in place of reading and in place of research. Let me just say that that is not acceptable for this class, and that if you start doing that, you're going to see your grade drop significantly. It's pretty easy to tell when students haven't read, because when they're answering questions based on materials that they saw on SparkNotes, they're tending to answer questions using materials that we haven't even addressed for the class. So that's something to keep in mind. When it comes to doing research, you need to use academic resources like the ones you can find through the MCC library, to help you put together an argument for this class or any essay that you'll be assigned. If you're looking for the Oxford English Dictionary, just to take a step back, the link is there available to you. You're going to be looking at the electronic databases, and you can search it by title, Oxford English Dictionary. Once you're there, what you need to know is that you are going to have definitions for words as they have changed through time. So the initial definition that you see for a term that you might look up, let's say you're reading one of Shakespeare's sonnets and it uses the word bark in a way that you don't expect it. So you go to the Oxford English Dictionary to look it up. The first meaning that you find may not be the meaning that Shakespeare had in mind. So you want to keep the time period for each definition in mind. Was this how Shakespeare might have used it in his time? And also, you want to keep the context in mind. So in terms of context based from this definition, is this something that Shakespeare might have meant? Doing that will really develop your understanding and interpretation of poetry in particular. So that's something that you want to keep handy for reference. As far as note-taking is concerned, don't be afraid to mark up your textbook. That's why we purchase them, even that's why we rent them, so that we have the opportunity to take notes. Use a highlighter or underline important passages. Remember, not everything is important, so if you have a lot of highlighting or underlining, you'll need to keep that in mind. And then you can take notes in the margin if you have a space, or in a notebook. I like to type out my notes because I can print them, and then I can highlight and underline what I've printed. You also want to keep in mind the themes of a given text. I do my best to try to help you with that through the course materials that I give you. So keep those materials in mind as well. And then look for these themes in the literature and highlight them or underline them or write them down when you find them. And if you want to trace these themes throughout the course, that might be something that would be helpful, say, on a final exam. So that's something that you can keep in mind as well. Other things that you can do while note-taking. Ask yourself, what is the author trying to communicate? Now, there's a big debate in literary studies as to whether or not the author's intention or the author's intended purpose is important. I'm going to throw out that debate, at least for our purposes, because we have some clues as to what authors were trying to say, and I really think we should pay attention to them. Also, write down what you believe to be the main points of the text. Try to keep in mind the context. So what you see as the main idea might have differed from what the original audience saw as the main idea. How does the author get the point across? Think in terms of methods. Swift is a great example for this. In A Modest Proposal, he has very specific methods that he uses to get his point across. And finally, ask yourself, why does the author choose this genre or method for communicating his or her point? Why choose a poem when you could say it in an essay? Why choose an essay when you could say it in a poem? What is the merits of this particular method? Of course, jot down your ideas and then consider the effects of the text both in its own time and today. Ask yourselves, why is this text significant or important? If you're thinking along those lines, you'll take excellent notes for this class. You'll also be able to pick out the main points of a text and not waste a lot of time having to reread material to prepare for exams and quizzes in this course. All right, there's my 6-minute version of how to tackle this course. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. Thanks, everyone.